Okay, I'm live right now. Um, I was actually planning to do a live stream with somebody earlier this evening, and there was a little bit of miscommunication on our part. I woke up a little bit late too. Is also partly, my own making because anyway, I woke up late because I had my car service this morning after work, and because of that, just the day's been kind of a clusterfuck. But hopefully we can have that resolved tomorrow or the next day or so with regard to the interview. All that. If I didn't oversleep, there wouldn't have been any problem. I overslept. So anyway, you don't want me to talk about my personal problems. Let's talk about Afghanistan again. Yeah, yeah. Afghanistan. Yeah. Um, Joe Biden pulling out of Afghanistan. As I said previously in my commentary, I believe yesterday, that it was the right thing to do. Probably be the only correct thing he's done of any profound meaning during this 4 year term or 8 year term of Joe Biden. More than likely 4 years, but you never know. Anyway, he's getting a lot of criticisms from both parties. And on Fox and Friends this morning, Mark Levin shares his take on Joe Biden leaving Afghanistan. So I'm going to let you listen to this clown, and then I will share some comments afterwards. Hold tight. We shall start momentarily.
With he's developing stories, author of American Marxism, #1 book all around the world, and the host of Life, Liberty, and Levin, Mark Levin. Mark, good morning to you.
Morning.
Morning, Steve.
You know, people who've been watching Afghanistan for a while saw this coming, and people thought, he can't possibly go through with it. He did, and now it's absolute chaos. There are tens of thousands of people who need to get out of Afghanistan, and right now they can't.
Fuck you, Mark Levin.
Steve, let me take a little different position on this than I think most people are. Number one, 2,500 non-combat troops, backed up potentially by 1,000 combat troops, 6,000 to 7,000 NATO troops, and we had neutralized Afghanistan.
Mm-hmm.
We had neutralized Afghanistan. I was at the Reagan Library last week, and we had 1,500 people. So at 1,000, 2,500 people, a massive country with awful terrain. We had an impenetrable air base in northern Afghanistan, and we had neutralized it. So people say 20-year war. What are they talking about, 20-year war? Do we have a 70-year war in North Korea and South Korea? The whole goal wasn't just to take out Osama bin Laden. It was to make sure Afghanistan couldn't be used to attack us again.
Right.
Taking out bin Laden, of course, was a priority. But he would be replaced by another and another and another. So the whole goal there was to keep our intelligence there, to keep the fighting there. And then I hear the Afghan troops won't fight. They lost 69,000 men. That's more than we lost in Vietnam or Korea. They were fighting, except in the middle of the night when we left our airbase. Why in the hell would we pull the military out before the civilians out?
Right.
We left our airbase. They had no air cover. We trained them to fight like we fight with air cover. We pulled out our federal contractors, which meant even their Air Force and their helicopters couldn't be maintained anymore. They were going to lose parts. Of course, they have a corrupt government. We know that. Most of these places we go do have corrupt governments. So I'm thinking to myself, if we could rewind the clock and have 2,500 non-combatants and backed up by 6,000 or 7,000 NATO troops and have our base back, and with all this horrific activity that's going on in Afghanistan, would we do it? We sure as hell would do it. That's number one. Number two, our southern border is still wide open. We're in a more dangerous position we were than on 9/11. We now have nation-state enemies like China, Russia, Iran, working with terrorist organizations. That's the new axis of the enemy. This is prior to 9/11. We didn't even have that. We have that now. And the southern border is still wide open. Our border patrol is overwhelmed. ICE is undermined. We should be securing that border immediately, so we're not hit again. We are overwhelmed down there. That's number two. Number three, the idea that Donald Trump would just do what Joe Biden did is a lie. It's a damnable lie. And I'll give you some quick examples. Number one, we still have troops in Iraq. We still have troops in Syria. Why? Because Donald Trump is not an ideologue. He's a practical man. He's a principled man. And he decided, I'll take most of the troops out of Iraq, but I can't take all of them. I'll take most of the troops out of Syria, but I can't take all of them. And he didn't. And so he looks at what's going on the ground. He makes decisions based on that. You heard what Admiral Kellogg had to say about their plan was nothing like what Biden did. Everybody get out, military first. That wasn't the plan of the Trump administration. Trump took out Soleimani when Iran hit us in Iraq. He took out the head of ISIS. He destroyed ISIS in the caliphate. When Syria, he wanted nothing to do with Syria, was gassing its own people twice. He hit them twice. The idea that Donald Trump is anything like Joe Biden is a disgusting effort by Joe Biden not to take responsibility for what he has done. We have not only a human catastrophe.
Okay. Momentarily, you'll see my face once again. First of all, I want to say this about Mark Levin. Mark Levin, fuck you, and fuck you infinitely. Okay, I got that out of my way. And another thing I want to say is that he brought up these points. There is a difference between the Korean Peninsula and Afghanistan. You got South Korea, which is a vibrant free market economy, versus a communist police state in North Korea. They're both advanced enough societies that with nuclear capabilities or what have you. I have my problem. I don't think North Korea should have nukes. I don't think that the United States should have nukes. But it is what it is. It's been relatively peaceful for the past 70 years. Not so much the case in Afghanistan. Afghanistan is totally unwinnable. At least with North Korea, you can negotiate with rational minds. I don't support the Marxist-Leninist governments, but you can negotiate with a Marxist-Leninist more than people who are radical fundamentalists within Islam. There's a difference. So him comparing the Korean Peninsula to Afghanistan is like comparing not apples and oranges, apples and washing machines. That's the difference right there. Now, with regard to southern border, what the hell does he mean, the southern border? Is he implying that people who are from Mexico or Central America are terrorists? Is that what he's implying? Because, you can have a debate about borders if you want, but it seems like he's engaging in racial profiling. Is he ignorant? The people who are coming here from the southern border because they're trying to get a better way of life for the shenanigans that United States government and American corporations have done to places like Central and Latin America. And they have been a force for negativity, not a force for good, and it's caused a situation. Now, I don't mind a Spanish-speaking population to coincide with the English-speaking population, because it works in Canada with the English-speaking population and a French-speaking population. But if he wants to talk about borders and border security, let's talk about border security for a moment, shall we? I remember back in 2005 and 2006 when President George W. Bush wanted the U.S. government to contract with a security firm from the nation of Dubai to monitor and operate security on our major nation's ports here. And there was outrage from the majority of people from both parties. Not a peep came out of Mark Levin, because nothing that George W. Bush was doing at that time was wrong in his eyes. So, and he talks about Donald Trump. I want to talk about that for a minute, calling him a principled man. Are you drunk? Mark Levin, are you drunk? Donald Trump doesn't stand for anything. I mean, he is a used car salesman if there ever was one. Now, here's the thing about Mark Levin being a partisan hack, referring to him as Donald Trump as a principled man. Back in 2016, Mark Levin supported Ted Cruz for president, and he was a never Trumper in 2016. Never forget that. And the people who were never Trumpers in 2016, who became Trump cocksuckers in 2020, are probably the worst people around, because they hated Trump in 2016 because they thought he was going to be too moderate or too liberal, and then they ended up becoming cheerleaders for Donald Trump because he turned out to be more right wing than they even ever hoped for. So, that's another strike too, Mark Levin. Fuck you for your position there. Fuck you. Okay. Qasem Soleimani of Iran, the general of Iran, he thinks that killing Qasem Soleimani, Donald Trump doing that with a drone attacks was a good thing. Are you fucking crazy, Mark Levin? Yes, Qasem Soleimani is not exactly what I would have called a good person, but you know what? He was fighting ISIS. Shows you where you are at, Mark Levin. He was actually fighting ISIS. What have you done other than just run your mouth on your stupid radio show and running your mouth on Fox and Friends? ISIS caliphate being defeated by Trump? Nonsense. Russia, Iran, and Syria are the reason why there is not going to be any caliphate coming with ISIS. So stop being a hack and be honest for a change. Syria did not gas their own people. That's been a settled issue. But Mark Levin is hanging on to that lie, like the lie about Iraq having weapons of mass destruction, that sort of thing. That's the kind of liar Mark Levin is. And thing about it is, Bashar al-Assad, and I've said this gazillions of times, and I'll say it again, defends Christians in Syria, defends Jews in Syria, defends competing Muslim factions in Syria for preventing them from killing each other. His friend, John Bolton, who was the national security advisor under Trump, openly advocated that the United States should back al-Qaeda to bring down Assad. And you know what's going to happen if Assad is brought down. What you see in Afghanistan right now is what you'll be seeing in Syria. Of course, it makes you wonder if that is what Mark Levin wants. And with regard to responsibility, let's talk about responsibility for a moment. George W. Bush got us into this mess to begin with because the Bush-Cheney doctrine botched up the way you were supposed to respond to 9/11. I'm not even disputing whether it was wrong or right to go into Afghanistan after 9/11. You go in there, you try to go and get Osama bin Laden. Of course, you had to go to Pakistan in 2011. That was taken care of. You went and taught the Taliban some lessons. They are nomadic. There are no positions to build empires or military of any significant strength or anything like that. And the thing about it is, what brought about the Taliban to begin with? Why were the Taliban in power to begin with? Remember, there was a government loyal to the Soviet Union in Afghanistan in the 70s. And the right-wing rebels were trying to take over, and the government had to call in the Soviets. The Soviets couldn't handle it. The United States obviously couldn't handle it. Will there be an ugly aftermath after this? No matter how you slice or dice it, you can't avoid what's going to happen when it comes to what is inedible. And I hate what's going to happen. But here's the thing. We can't afford it. course, Mark Levin would tell you that, maybe you can go cut Social Security and maybe you should go and cut Medicare and some of the entitlement programs. We can be there forever. Fuck you, Mark Levin. Fuck you. You neocon piece of shit. When Rand Paul said recently anybody with a name Cheney, referring to Liz Cheney, should not be taken seriously, he was correct. But anybody by the name of Mark Levin should never, ever, ever, ever be taken seriously. He shouldn't be taken seriously. He should not be respected. If anything, you look at Mark Levin, you point at him and said, this piece of shit is an ass clown and he's to be laughed at and mocked. Kiss my ass, motherfucker. Piece of shit. Anyway, if you like what you heard, press like and comment. If you disagree, comment anyway. We'll have a conversation. Feel free to share the content on this channel as a First Amendment absolutist. It's my duty to inform you to create your own platform and utilize it as we're the muckrakers of our time. Feel free to hit that subscribe button, hit that notification bell. And until next time, I am American Social Democracy. Peace, class struggle, and let's stop listening to this neocon clown and take him seriously, because he's a silly neocon clown. Once again, Mark Levin, fuck you. Fuck you, fuck you, fuck you, fuck you.